when Kellen reported all the information he had gathered to Shell, and he pondered for a long time. "So you're telling me a mysterious group is assisting my little brother?" Kellen nodded in affirmation. "Yes, my lord. It appears our agents fell victim to this unknown force." Ishel sought confirmation again, but his real focus remained on Kellen's performance. When Kellen left, the fear had vanished from his demeanor, his attitude as calm as if he were two people. Could it be that he no longer worried about losing his master's trust? Fear has always been the key with which Ishel controlled people's hearts, and now it seemed as if someone had stolen his most cherished toy. "I understand all this. Now, Kellen, I have a question for you. Having been by Ishel's side for so long, hearing this made him flinch a bit. How could Kellen not realize that he had aroused his master's suspicion? He quickly bowed and recited his oath of loyalty. "May the grace of Lumendal be with you." Ishel, seeing this, finally relaxed a bit and candidly admitted that it was just a routine test. His trust in Kellen would remain unchanged. By the time Kellen turned to leave, cold sweat had already quietly beaded on his forehead. He knew well that Ishel was naturally suspicious and ruthless. Showing any slip at this moment could jeopardize the young master's plans. He had to be even more cautious. As he pushed open the door, a short-haired girl was quietly waiting outside. It was the young master's maid, Emily. Why was she here? Before Kellen could speak, Ishel invited Emily in. "I asked her to come." Ishel looked at Emily, his tone low but gentle. "Your name is Emily, right? Can you help me with something?" Emily looked puzzled, but the thought of the celebrated genius Ishel actively humbling himself to ask for her help sent her imagination soaring. Meanwhile, at a secret meeting somewhere on the continent, attendees were shocked as they looked at two cracked life magic stones, signifying the deaths of two important members, Lucayon and Catalina. The last traces were found near Ruin City, but no useful clues could be gleaned from the scene. This could only mean two things. First, the enemy's power far surpasses theirs. Second, the enemy is a powerful wielder of dark attributes. In Ruin City, the only one capable of killing them is Chancellor Kusel, but he is not a wielder of dark attributes, which means there is someone very powerful out there that we do not know about. Another person calmly pointed out, inside the Royal Academy, there is only one dark attribute newcomer who has survived an encounter with magical dragons. Worse yet, key members within the organization have been assassinated one after another recently. First, Reynold Crimson, who provided demon blood from the front lines. Then, Zickerman Albus, who provided financial and trade support. And now, even the two strongest dragon warriors are dead. It's hard not to suspect that there is some connection between these events. The plan must not fail. It's decided to place Luna of Rain River, someone's granddaughter, into the Royal Academy to investigate me. Meanwhile, inside the Royal Academy dormitory, a different scene was unfolding. Princess Erin, holding a large cake, appeared in my dorm room. Ding ding! A special cake made by the Imperial Palace chefs. "Enjoy it." Nana, seeing the cake, couldn't help but drool and blurted out, "Wow, Nana likes Erin." Erin calmly responded, "Have as much as you like. There is plenty more. All for Nana." Seeing all the gifts Erin bought, Nana was quite surprised. I quietly watched all this, but felt a twinge of worry. They seem to be getting along well. It seems we really need to keep a low profile for a while. If the dragon race can sense Nana's presence, the next ambush might be more fierce. But no matter what, I must ensure the safety of my people. After all, in this life, I've decided to live for myself, especially that so-called good brother, who must be scheming something in the shadows. No matter what his plots are, I am determined to completely destroy them. Thinking this, I couldn't help but let out a smile. Erin noticed this and asked, "Cyan, do you have something good on your mind?" "You look happy." This question made me smirked. Yes, I suddenly had a great idea. The scales of victory have already begun to tip, and a new plan is gradually forming in my mind. Meanwhile, in the garden of the Vert residence, Ishel invited Prince Luenel to a meeting. "You look well, Ishel. It is all thanks to you, Your Highness." Ishel immediately replied with a smile. Luenel began with a series of accusations. "Ishel, how long do you intend to waste away at the borders? I hear Ellis is roaming the continent." "Indeed, I am worried about her. I wonder exactly what she is doing." Before Ishel could finish, Luenel interrupted, "Aren't you worried that Ellis would threaten your position?" Ishel turned serious. "I fear Your Highness speaks with a certain lack of discretion." "Come now, is there any need for such discretion between us?" Luenel answered and changed the topic. "Your brother, Cyan was it? When he mentioned me, his tone was full of mockery. My father seems to have taken a keen interest in him, even planning to getting him engaged to Erin. That poor and useless trash daughter gaining so much paternal love was enough to make Luenel seethe with envy." Upon hearing this, Ishel's expression subtly changed, then calmly said, "Isn't that good? The more power Erin gains, the more attention she attracts, the more it benefits our plans." Thus, a conspiracy against Erin was quietly agreed upon over a meal. I always appreciated how fruitful our conversations are. Ishel sharply noticed that the servant pouring wine for Luenel was a new face. Luenel explained playfully, "This guardian knight Boris is a jewel I unearthed from the slums." With just one look, Ishel saw the resemblance between Boris and Luenel. He nodded lightly and said, "Well, even among jewels, he certainly appears to be of the highest quality." 2 years passed. On the streets of Ruin City, a plainly dressed woman walks slowly. Although she tries to avoid drawing attention, her sky blue long hair and deep lake blue blue eyes, coupled with her unparalleled beauty, still attract frequent sideways glances from passers-by. It turns out to be Ellis returning from her study abroad. She didn't go to see her family first, but went straight to the Royal Academy and go directly to the Chancellor's office. Did you enjoy your travels? Hearing this, Ellis immediately affirms, yes, I went to Proina. Proina? It is not a place particularly welcoming to humans. Ellis agreed that even her took a year to adapt there. Since the Chancellor said that place would hinder my growth, I wanted to see it even more. Ellis believes that only through hardships can the pacifism she seeks be more meaningful, and it appears you have reached a conclusion. Now, her conviction is even stronger. She is still determined to join the Order of Light. The Chancellor asked her if she still planned to live for her family's wishes. Ellis simply smiled lightly and responded, some responsibilities must ultimately be borne by someone, and I am still very worried about my siblings, especially Cyan. He is so timid that it really worries me. Hearing this, the Chancellor couldn't help but laugh heartily, which puzzled Ellis. Cyan? Timid? How amusing. Suddenly, another voice rang out from the room. Is that amusing? Mr. Chancellor, you are indeed harsh. Ellis turned around in astonishment, seeing her brother whom she hadn't seen in 2 years, now with a tall stature. I smiled and greeted, long time no see, sister. I've missed you a lot. 2 years have flown by like running water, and Ellis is surprised by my change. You've gotten so tall. You're almost taller than me now. I calmly responded, maybe you've gotten shorter instead. This remark successfully prompted Ellis to raise her hand and affectionately squeeze my cheeks. Genesis year 988, on July 2nd. I remembered this day even in my past life, since it was the last day I saw big sister Elise alive. While walking, Ellis became worried, and she asked, why are you still at the academy during the summer vacation and not going home? I doubt there's anyone else who'd really welcome me aside from you. I replied with a sad smile. What do you mean by having no one to welcome you? Is that the reason you haven't returned home in the past 2 years? In fact, there are many reasons why I don't want to go home. Not to mention that Ashel is now living at home. Even the Duchess would rather kill me sooner than later. In the mysterious deaths of the 6 mid-level knights she directed, my father couldn't possibly be unaware of them, yet he chooses to ignore them. Returning to such a family would be like committing suicide. I probably have no reason to go back until I graduate from the academy. However, Ellis thinks I am afraid of being bullied by my younger brother Krantz. Can't you two become friends? That's impossible. You've seen how he treats me. Moreover, he even tried to kill me. Ellis's eyes widened in disbelief. She didn't understand her 2 brothers whom she cherished. She thought it was just children's bickering, but in reality, it was fratricidal. At this moment, Brian steps forward, seriously stating, I can testify to this. Hearing him, Ellis asked who he is, which I immediately replied that he's my guard knight, Brian Kendrick. Oh my, you were his guard knight. I was wondering why you were tailing after us. After Brian explained everything, Ellis suddenly fell into deep self-blame. I'm sorry. I didn't notice these things, letting you suffer so much. It's not your fault. The bad people are the Duchess and Krantz, and it seems he has not repented yet. Upon hearing their names, the look of anger is clearly visible on Ellis's face. Seeing this, I called out her name. She immediately asked me, have you talked about this to anyone else besides me? This happened all in the past. There's no use talking about it, and Krantz hasn't been showing signs of remorse. I hadn't finished speaking when Ellis suddenly threw herself into my arms. You don't have to bear it all alone, Cyan. Keeping it all to yourself must be hard, but you can rely on me now. Your sister will protect you. This warmth and trust Ellis had once given to me. At this moment, however, I clumsily didn't know how to respond. I want to spend more time with you, but now I must go somewhere. Take care of yourself. Ellis's words left me stunned, but unexpectedly, she called out to Brian. The next second, she threw herself into Brian's arms. Please take good care of my brother too, will you? At this moment, my gaze toward Brian was almost murderous. Ellis must have credited this so-called guardian knight with my escape from that assassination. Yet, as I said goodbye to Ellis again, I already began to miss the moments spent with her. It's been a long time since I've seen her so angry. The last time was during a swordsmanship class with Krantz. What is that? Get up, you motherless boy. I said let's stop it here. You won so. After I conceded in the match, Krantz kept attacking and humiliating me. His pleasure has never been in winning, but in bullying the weak. Just then, Krantz froze. Ellis, who arrived just in time, stopped the farce. That angry face of hers, I had only seen once before in my previous life. Now, she already knew the truth about the ducal mansion. It seems that the family's peace can no longer be maintained, but only in this way can I protect Ellis and save her from the tragic end of her previous life. At this moment, Brian brought a purification list and a banquet invitation. Where did you get this? I asked Brian, which he immediately answered. One came through the academy, and the other I received from one of the cleaning staff. I casually set aside the invitation and picked up the assassination order. Are you not taking this? That's most likely from the Imperial Palace. Brian, seeing the Imperial seal on the envelope, agrees. What could the Imperial Court want? Meanwhile, Kairam suddenly took an interest in that invitation. What is it? Every year at this time, the royal family holds a banquet, and the Vert family is a regular guest. But such invitations, bearing the royal seal, are usually sent to my father, who then appoints which offspring will attend. In my past life, I naturally never enjoyed such treatment, but it's easy to see that these these banquets are nothing more than boring political gatherings. I opened the other envelope, and just like I guess, it was an assassination order. The Drinian Nepolis assassination incident. It was a major incident that occurred at the imperial banquet. The shock was far-reaching, because he was the younger brother of the emperor. Are you going? Kariam curiously asked. Yes, I have a business there, I firmly answered. Come to think of it, they sent a different person on this assignment in my former life. But I guess the head of the mist has really taken a special interest in me. How bothersome. Just then, Kariam took a close look at the envelope. Wait, isn't the signature from Princess Erin? Is that so? I flatly answered. Kariam immediately teased. Your first love letter. I thought you were just a kid, but I seem to have underestimated you. You've all grown up now. I mercilessly cast a control spell on Kariam. It looks like I have to go to this banquet after all. Just then, Nana's voice, saying she was hungry, came from the hall. However, when we all looked towards her, we all stood frozen in place. While they say children grow up fast, can someone tell me why Nana can grow so quickly? Meanwhile, inside the Vert mansion, Ellis rushed in hastily, her urgency a sight never before seen by the servants, who all paused in their greetings. But Ellis was concerned with only one thing. Mother, no, where's the Duchess now? Meanwhile, the Duchess was peacefully reading in her room when she heard a commotion. By the time Ellis burst into the ladies' room, Margaret quickly greeted her. It's been a long time, Ellis. How have you been, my daughter? But Ellis, ignoring her, strode forward and harshly slapped Margaret across the face. They say a sister's love for her brother is a form of bloodline suppression, but she is second to none in protecting him. Ellis's slap formally declared her break with her stepmother. Margaret, shocked at being struck by her daughter in an act of overthrowing, exclaimed in anger, "Are you mad? Are you all just loafers?" She had never thought she would be confronted and reproached by Ellis, nor had any reason to provoke her. An innocent-looking Margaret was about to explain when Ellis cut her off. How dare you to think of killing my brother Cyan? Margaret's face turned pale instantly, and she quickly denied it. Nonsense. Do you have any evidence? However, seeing Margaret's panic-stricken demeanor, Ellis had already confirmed her suspicion. She was right. Your reaction just now has indeed confirmed the facts to me, Ellis said coldly, her tone resolute. Margaret, infuriated with embarrassment, exclaimed, "How dare you confront me without evidence? What are you waiting for? Throw her out." At the explicit order of the Duchess, the guards could no longer stand by idly, and after apologizing to the young lady, they moved in on her. However, Ellis was not one to be easily handled. She flipped over to dodge the grab, and immediately, brilliant water elements appear out of nowhere. Elemental spirit, Undine. The water element broke through the guard's encirclement as if it were an extension of her own limbs, each strike precise and powerful. Elemental magic. How can she so easily defeat so many knights? Margaret began to panic. Don't come any closer. What exactly do you want to do? Margaret's voice trembled. Ellis said word by word, Guardian Knight Brian has already confessed everything. He identified you as the mastermind behind the assassination attempt on my brother 2 years ago. Did you think you could get away with it just because he kept silent? Margaret's face turned pale, but she still retorted stubbornly, you would rather believe those lowly people than me? That bastard child just stole a sliver of humble bloodline. Are you mad to take his side? Shut up, Ellis said angrily, her voice sharp. Your power is nothing but derived from others. Now, I'm going to tell father everything. You're finished. Watching Ellis's retreating back, a sneer slowly emerged in Margaret's eyes. This fool. After all she's been through, she still hasn't seen clearly. Duke Wyliers has always been indifferent to that rootless offspring. His true concern has always been the family's glory and his eldest son, whom he sees as the heir. When Ellis entered the Duke's study, the Duke merely responded indifferently. I've known about this for a long time, so what do you want to do? Ellis was stunned, incredulously looking at her father. What do you mean? Your own child was assassinated, and you are not moved at all? The Duke's gaze remained calm, unflustered. I don't want to explain anything about this. It seems the result isn't too bad, is it? Ellis's voice trembled with anger, but those were 6 mid-level knights. If it weren't for his guardian knight Brian, he would have already. The Duke couldn't help but chuckle. You mean that fool? Do you really think he could handle 6 mid-level knights by himself? He's just a runner, a menial. Ellis caught some key points in her father's words and paused. So you're saying those 6 knights were actually killed by my brother? The Duke sighed, his tone somewhat dismissive. It seems you don't understand him at all. How about letting go of these issues and taking a break? I need to return to the frontline camp. You can attend this royal banquet on my behalf. As for your brother, don't worry, he's stronger than you think. What do you mean by strong? She thought to herself. Watching the Duke's departing back, Ellis stood frozen in place, deeply puzzled by her father's logic, but he clearly had no intention of pursuing the matter further. Don't worry about him, Ellis murmured softly, full of doubts. He's only a 13-year-old kid. Ellis paced restlessly in the corridor, her mind in turmoil. Just then, someone called out her name, and a suddenly appearing figure brightened her vision. Is that you? Cecilia. Cecilia warmly greeted. Congratulations on your return, Lady Ellis. The next second, she couldn't help but throw herself into Ellis's arms. Where have you been this whole time? You haven't sent a single letter in years. Ellis, full of remorse, could only try to soothe her. Cecilia Rain is an elite knight of the Order of Light, but for Ellis, she is not just a knight, but also her personal maid, teacher, and friend. Ellis breaks free from the hug. All right, how about about a change of scenery after a long time, Cecilia? Cecilia was puzzled about what she meant. Let's go out for some fresh air. How about a stroll through the Imperial Palace? Meanwhile, on another path, Nana, dressed in a maid's outfit, was amazed by everything around her. Wow, look, a deer! I resignedly let her make such noises, only reminding her, Nana, tuck your tail back in. Upon hearing the command, Nana reluctantly activated her magic, hiding her tail, wings, and horns. Unexpectedly, she had awakened such abilities as she grew older. Now, it was indeed much safer to walk around with her outside. However, I only dared to think about this idea. You haven't forgotten what we agreed on earlier, have you? I confirmed with Nana. Nana immediately responded with conviction. Of course, I am the young Master Cyan's maid. That's who Nana is. Seeing her like this only made me more worried. Not good. She's too excited, and I feel like she's about to cause trouble again. Just then, the carriage suddenly stopped in the middle of the road. I pushed open the window and asked Brian what happened, only to find several bandits blocking the way. Their opening lines were unchanged, actually saying, leave your valuables, or else you'll regret it. What was I expecting? Quickly dispose of them. I still sat calmly inside the carriage, unmoved. What happened, Daddy? Nana curiously asked, to which I just responded, it's nothing, just a bunch of bugs. Continuous training and the rare full dragon feast have greatly enhanced Brian's abilities. Dealing with these annoying pests, he could finish them off quickly. Brian leaped into the midst of the robbers, his long sword swinging like the wind. In a flurry of motions, he had already beheaded the leader under his horse. The surrounding robbers, inflamed by blood, surged forward. Brian let out a sigh. Consecutive quick slashes. The speed of the long sword suddenly increased, and as Brian extended his arms, he knocked down the attackers one by one. Against these unprotected robbers, the speed advantage of the wind attribute was simply invincible. The once weak Brian was no longer weak. He had indeed grown. Come back and drive after you're done. No time for you to pose. Okay, Master, coming right now. Meanwhile, Sirica was reviewing the list of attendees for the royal banquet. Her subordinate couldn't help but advise, there are quite a lot of participants for this banquet especially. How about delaying the plan? No, we have to use this opportunity to kill him. Sirica's voice was stern and decisive. The assassination of Drenian Nepolis. Is there a reason why you're rushing that operation? Drenian's actions are disgusting. He is a sex criminal who uses his power specifically to prey on married women, so he deserves what's coming. But the reason we need to execute him quickly is another matter. Sirica paused for a moment, then slowly continued, because he is my fiancé. Just then, Sirica noticed an attendee. Is this kid participating the banquet too? What's going on? Luna of Rain River, a genius magician with 20% full attributes, because of her frail body, is unable to attend regular classes. Her other identity, however, is the granddaughter of the head of the Garum Magic Association. Luna, due to her physical condition, has been resting at home and never appeared in public. But now, her name is conspicuously on the banquet list. From what I've heard, Council Head Rygans had sent her himself. Sirica had a nagging premonition. That deep-thinking old man must be plotting something in the shadows. On the other side, after days of hurried travel, our group finally arrived at the grand streets of the Imperial City. Fortunately, we were not late. This city is clearly more bustling, and the streets are wider. Nana, excited, looked around eagerly, her face full of curiosity and excitement. However, in her obliviousness, she ran into a passerby. The passerby immediately became furious, bellowing fiercely, "Are you blind? Can't you see where you're walking?" Nana was startled and immediately apologized meekly. "Sorry, what can I do to make it up to you?" Hearing this soft voice and then seeing Nana's small face, the person immediately blushed. "Haha, it's okay, no problem. If you like, you can bump into me a few more times." Nana turned to me and shouted excitedly, "Daddy, look, people here are so friendly." I instantly felt a headache, giving a cold glance at the friendly guy. He's not being friendly. I almost forgot that she knows too little about this world and is completely unguarded. "Nana, you need to be wary of others," I seriously reminded her. At this moment, Brian suddenly reminded, "Young Master, look at Nana's eyes." I looked at her, alarmed, and saw that her pupils could no longer maintain their disguise. "Daddy, I'm hungry." Her hungry nature was emanating a strong aura that couldn't be ignored. "Brian, hurry and take her to the nearest restaurant." Brian immediately sprinted. Nana gets stressed the moment she gets hungry. This is concerning. They say a teenager can eat their parents out of the house and home, and as Nana grows, her appetite seems to have doubled. I feel so much better now, Daddy. Fortunately, I brought a lot of money before we left. I'm at a loss for words. Raising a child is really difficult. Just as I was reflecting on this, the next second, a strange energy entered my range of perception. A refreshing blue-haired girl approached me. "Hello, I've been wanting to meet you. You are Cyan Vert, correct?" Then she smiled. "She knows my name." "That's right, but who are you?" I asked, puzzled. I had no recollection of her, but she made herself comfortable right beside me. "I'm Lunav. I'm at the same academy as you, but I'm a sophomore." Hearing her introduce herself, the name Lunav sounded vaguely familiar to me. I didn't know since I'm not particularly interested in my juniors. She smoothly continued the conversation. "It's fine. Compared to a well-known academy star like you, I'm a complete outsider." Nana and Brian, seeing the newcomer, couldn't help but question her identity, because the way she looked at me, it surely wasn't like how one treats a friend. "It looks like you have a good good relationship with your guardian knight and maid to be able to dine at the same table with them. You seem so gentle, which is quite different from the rumors. There's no particular reason to eat away from them, I flatly answered. It was hard for her to scrape up such a bizarre compliment, and I was already getting irritated. What purpose is she approaching me for? She finally revealed her true intent. Are you also here for the royal banquet? Yes. How did you know? A person who never leaves the academy suddenly comes to the imperial city. What other reason could there be? I am also among the invited. We'll see each other there. Hearing this, I thought to myself, if she was invited, then that would mean she is part of the nobility. That's enough for introductions for today. It's a shame, but I'll be heading off. I watch her retreating back when she looked back at me. Please remember my name, Lune of Rain River. I finally remembered. Lune of Rain River. She is the granddaughter of Raigan's Rain River, head of the Garum Magic Association. That crazy old man sent her to the banquet. In my past life, she died young while still a sophomore at the academy. I'm not sure if it was really because of her frailty or because the Magic Association conducted some harsh human experiments on her. In this life, I keep encountering people who never crossed paths with me in the previous life. And why do all these events seem to converge during the royal banquet? In future retellings, this banquet was called the Bloody Banquet, and describing it as rivers of blood wouldn't be an exaggeration. Meanwhile, another future protagonist of the banquet was agonizing over which dress to wear. Aaron was at the age of 13, just starting to be interested in beauty, a typical awkward teenage phase where one is self-conscious about others' opinions. Rezimus, how does this dress look? Rezimus immediately gushed with both hands. You look absolutely beautiful. It's the prettiest dress I've ever seen. Aaron, however, ignored the comment, tossing the dress aside again. I think it's still missing something. Rezimus, on the verge of tears, pleaded, you've already tried on so many dresses. Please let me go. Who can get me out of here? No, I think it's a bit iffy, Aaron said while grabbing another dress. Desperate, she played her trump card. It's fine. I believe that young Master Cyan would probably like to see you in that. Aaron immediately blushed and stuttered. Wah, what are you talking about? How would he see me? Rezimus couldn't help but secretly criticize in her mind. You're the one who sent him an invitation. Stop pretending to be surprised now. Aaron panicked again, but her words were already jumbled. At that moment, a maid brought in a delicate gift box. This is a gift from Prince Lionel. He said that wearing it at the banquet will definitely enhance your beauty. Aaron's face flickered with surprise from that estranged royal brother. Upon opening the gift box, the accessories inside were indeed very beautiful. Rezimus couldn't help but exclaim, it's so beautiful. I'm sure that young Master Cyan would like it too. Shut up. Aaron quickly interrupted Rezimus's rambling, her cheeks already red to the ears. Didn't I tell you it's nothing like that? The banquet slowly began, and I stayed alone in a corner, scanning for the assassination target, but he still hadn't appeared. However, the first to approach me was Kellen. Kellen, if you are here, then Ashel must be here too. Kellen nodded, confirming my guess. He told me that Ashel was currently with Prince Lionel, but Kellen risked coming to see me because of something more important. Could you please leave this banquet? Hearing this, I thought, has there be a leak of information about the purification job? So I asked him, is something going to happen here? Ashel had ordered Kellen to leave the palace before the banquet started and mentioned that he had prepared a small event for this banquet for the greater good. This made Kellen uneasy, so he tried to persuade me to leave the banquet. Hearing this, I was utterly shocked. That means that the mastermind behind the Banquet of Blood incident was Ashel. Although a shadow personality occupied Kellen's mind, he was more worried about my safety at this moment. I took his warning, but still insisted on staying at the banquet. I see. You may leave now. Will you be fine? He asked to confirm. Yeah, hurry up and go since you might be in danger. Hearing this, Kellen did not press further. Understood. Then please take care. A small event? This thought repeated in my mind, and I couldn't help but smirk. Ashel, you bastard. You are a lot more of a psycho than I thought. Kram asked me with interest. Are you worried about the lives of these innocents? No, I just find things more interesting now, I replied coldly. But no matter what, the assassination mission has to be postponed for now. Then, I locked eyes with Circa in the crowd and secretly initiated Mind Link. Through the frequency-modulated vibrations of elemental power, we could communicate secretly. You look great in that dress, leader, I whispered softly, receiving my Mind Link. She was puzzled. What's the matter, Cyan? It seems that I'll have to delay the purification job for today. Circa listened carefully and asked for my reasons. I just got some information. This banquet will soon be a bloodbath. Circa's face changed dramatically. What do you mean? I don't have much time, so I'll explain it to you later. For now, I need to check for any movements of the demonic beasts before the incident starts. Her gaze grew more intense. Are you sure? Is the information reliable? I just happen to be very familiar with the person who'd do such a thing. I only had a suspicion, but now I'm certain. I'm very clear about who is behind this event. Although the situation is tense, there is still some good news. The purification target, which is your fiancé, will also die in this attack. Circa immediately became furious. How do you know he is my fiancé? However, her questioning only received my retreating back. I had already turned and left, not giving her more time. Anyway, I'll be heading out to do my job. At this moment, another familiar voice sounded behind her. Instructor Circa. Circa turned around sharply, and it was Ellis. It's been a while, Instructor. The two, dressed in gala attire, undoubtedly became the focus of the banquet. Ellis excitedly came forward to greet Sirica. "Why are you here?" Sirica frowned. Ellis replied with a smile. "I just came to breathe some fresh air. Besides, it's my responsibility as the eldest daughter." However, Sirica only felt that this moment was terribly bad. The attack could start at any time, and Ellis would also be caught up. Before Sirica could say more, another sudden voice broke the atmosphere. "Look at my dear fiancée and the charming Lady Ellis. I feel like I'm seeing two beautiful flowers here." Sirica immediately felt a bad premonition. Damn, things have already turned chaotic, and I didn't expect to encounter him here, the very target of this assassination mission. "I'd like to formally introduce myself. I'm Drenian Nepolis." The newcomer bowed with a gentlemanly gesture, but his eyes were filled with insolence and disrespect. After parting with Sirica, I approached Brian. "We got work to do." Brian immediately saluted solemnly. "Yes, young master. I, Brian Kendrick, will execute any command." "Yeah, stop doing that. It's awkward." His response made me roll my eyes. Ever since Brian's abilities improved, he seems a bit over the top. Does he feel he has finally become a true guard knight after becoming stronger by drinking the blood of the dragon? But at this time, reasoning with him is pointless. Check the underground passages of the palace. He immediately showed a timid expression. "What? That place is too dark. It scares me." So much for being cocky. His true colors show in a second. "Go quickly. I have my reasons." Brian once again obeyed, but then added, "My lord, behind you. There's someone suspicious watching you." Seeing the figure appearing behind me and feeling that familiar aura, I realized it was Emily. Before I could react, Brian had already charged over. "My lord, wait while I capture them." Then immediately tackle Emily to the ground. "It's fine, Brian. I know her." Brian, looking up at me, answered, "Is that so?" It seems like I made a bad first impression on her, and there Emily was confused on the ground. How could she also be here? Meanwhile, in the underground corridors, a figure cloaked in a cape appeared in the dungeon. "The time has come, my servants. Arise." Then, several figures with glowing eyes rise. At this moment, Erin, dressed up for the event, was searching for my presence, but her efforts only led to frustration. "What? I went through so many troubles to invite him, and he's nowhere to be seen." Just as she lamented my unreliable promises, a sky blue figure approached her first. "It's an honor to greet you, Princess Erin." Seeing the young girl bowing in greeting, Erin immediately recognized her. "You're Lune of Rain River, right? The second year in our academy." Hearing this, Lune smiled. "So you remember me?" "Thank you, Princess Erin. There's no way I wouldn't remember the genius of the Garum Kingdom. On behalf of the Empire, I welcome you to this banquet." Their similar ages and experiences quickly narrowed the distance between them. "You're really kind, Your Highness. It would have been nice if Senior Cyan knew about your kindness too." The topic unexpectedly turned to me. Erin, upon hearing my name, immediately asked, "You know Cyan?" "Of course. I was with him just yesterday, you know." Hearing this, she immediately tensed up and an inappropriate remark slipped out. "You were with him? Are you close with him?" Seeing Erin become so flustered at the mention of me, Lunav couldn't help but reveal a playful smile. "As I thought. Princess Erin, you like Senior Cyan, don't you?" This blunt statement caught Erin completely off guard. "I like Cyan. Do I?" In the next second, the hall suddenly plunged into chaos. Both stunned, they turned to look back, only to see that the bustling banquet was now overrun with countless masked fiends launching a frenzied attack on the guests. "Someone, call the guards." Blood splattered, and screams and cries intertwined, creating a chaotic scene. Everything happened too suddenly. No way! How did a monster get inside the Imperial Palace? These fiends seemed to appear out of thin air, and though they looked human, the bloodthirsty madness in their eyes made them seem more like real monsters. A deep, grating roar emanated from beneath their masks. "I found you, Princess." Their target was Princess Erin. On the other side of the banquet hall, I had taken the suddenly appearing Emily to my room. When Emily saw Nana, also dressed as a maid, she was struck as if by lightning. Then her legs felt weak. "She's much younger and even prettier than me." "So, my lord, is she the reason you left me?" I immediately denied it, but there was no time for a detailed explanation now. "Are you sure it was a shell who brought you here?" Emily immediately stopped her whining, and a smug expression spread across her face. "Of course, the young master even offered to hire me, seeing how desirable I am. You know, offered to hire you?" Emily recalled how it started. "Would you like to work as my maid?" Hearing this, Emily was puzzled. "You seemed a bit lonely after Cyan left for the academy. How about it?" But I refused without hesitation. I needed to make sure I was still here when you returned. Otherwise, who else could take care of you this well? In her speech, Emily seemed to be asserting her dominance in front of Nana, continually mentioning her longer association and deeper connection with me. I mused to myself, "Are you sure?" "Yes, but it seems he still didn't give up, judging by how he brought me here." Hearing this, I was silent for a moment, thinking why Ashell actually wanted to bring Emily to the royal banquet. "Brian, change of plans," I said gravely. "It's dangerous outside. Protect Nana and Emily." After that, I didn't linger and turned to leave. I don't recall Emily being here in my past life. I figured Ashell was scheming for something the moment Kellen was sent to monitor me, and now he dares to mess with my people. This is unforgivable. After I left, Emily suddenly came to her senses, her face full of regret. "Oh no, I forgot something important. Master Ashell asked me to give this bow tie to the young master. He even gave me strict instructions about it." "Oh my god, I'm so foolish. I came all this way and forgot the most important thing, she muttered to herself, holding the bow tie. However, the subtle, unusual scent coming from the bow tie caught Nana's attention. This strange smell, Nana murmured, frowning, a hint of unease flashing in her eyes. Could it be? Meanwhile, the two masterminds behind the bloody banquet finally met in secret. It's begun, Prince Lionel. This day has finally come, Ishel. Thank you for all your efforts. Compared to the first, Prince Lionel's visible delight, Ishel appeared more profound and composed. He calmly responded, not forgetting to compliment the other. Speaking of which, the two little gifts we sent should have reached their hands by now. Thanks to your highness's keen eye for discovering the guardian knight Boris. This operation went so smoothly. Hearing this, Lionel can't help but smile. From today onwards, we will continue to make use of him to change this empire that is sinking in peace. Ishel agreed. Now, it is time to prove who the empire really needs. Lionel was completely immersed in the joy of victory. At this time, their masterpiece was sweeping through the royal banquet like a plague. Aaron urgently called out, trying to evacuate the panicked crowd, planning to clear an area suitable for the guardian knights to fight. Lunav anxiously advised, Your Highness, you must evacuate here first. But Aaron firmly shook her head. She always considered the royal duties as her own, and she resolutely refused to evacuate first. I can't leave. I must stay to direct the retreat. Lunav paused for a moment, then nodded. All right, then I'll stay and help you. A bridge of trust was quietly built between the two in this dangerous moment. Thanks, Lunav. However, in the next second, the situation in the venue took a drastic turn for the worse. First, the number of soldiers in the Guardian Knights drastically decreased, and the defense line could not withstand the frenzied attacks of the bloodthirsty monsters. Then, the evacuation routes completely collapsed, and the corridors and doors were already filled with ambushes. Just then, the commander looked back and was shocked to see that the knight responsible for escorting the evacuation was forced to retreat as soon as he stepped out the door. Even the squad leader had his skull crushed on the spot by a monster. He felt helpless as he witnessed the scene. And worse, a high-level magical beast appeared in the hall. These huge demonic beasts, which only appeared on the front lines, were also summoned to the banquet. The commander felt despair. This is a death trap. There's no way we can win. But in the next second, a huge mandragora's body suddenly exploded. Sirika's agile figure landed steadily. At this moment, she could no longer hide her strength. She loudly ordered, Don't be stunned. Take this opportunity to evacuate the crowd. But while the commander was still dazed, the figure of a masked assassin had already pounced from behind. Hypersonic sword. Ellis swung her long sword, creating ripples, and instantly cut down the stealthy assassin. At this moment, two flowers of the battlefield bloomed in the bloody banquet, commanding together, organize the defense line, evacuate the crowd. Leave this to us. The Royal City's Guard Knights, due to long years of peace, had organization and response capabilities far inferior to those of the frontline corps. But now, with Ellis and Sirika buying time for them, they finally began to tighten their defenses. Both were prepared for battle. Be careful, they're coming. But in the next second, the monster's vines swept directly past them. We're not the targets. Ellis and Sirika realized at the same time that those vines were headed towards Princess Erin. Seeing this, Erin is stunned in place. However, Sirika and Ellis were too far away to assist in time. Princess Erin, she was the target. In a critical moment where the vines are a few centimeters away from attacking Princess Erin, the commander finally rose up with his sword, instantly cutting through the swiftly attacking monster vines. Protect the Princess Erin, he commanded firmly. Erin watched all this in panic, unaware of the blood that streaked across her face. Commander Morris valiantly cut through the attacking vines, but was ultimately pierced by the branches of a demon beast that followed. Seeing this, Erin bursts into tears, and the vines retract from Captain Morris's body. Erin immediately ran to the commander. Wake up, Morris. Seeing Captain Morris not responding, Erin fell into self-blame. I'm sorry, Morris. It's all because of me. At that moment, Lunav resolutely stood up, her magic power surging, emitting a calm yet powerful aura. Aqua Blast Combo. Wind Spear. The fusion of water and wind elements temporarily repelled the monster, giving a brief respite. At this moment, Lunav displayed her impressive magical talent. Seeing this, Erin can't help but be amazed, knowing that Lunav is only in her second year, and she just manifested fusion magic. Due to her full attribute talent, she could easily combine multiple elements to create more powerful fusion magic. Even so, Lunav calmness and composure brought a sense of comfort to everyone. Your Highness, there's no hope for him. He's gone. You must take this chance to flee to safety. Lunav's words were rational and firm, but Erin was still immersed in guilt and grief. At that moment, three more royal knights rushed forward, firmly protecting Erin. Your Highness, we will hold it off. Go now. We won't let Captain Morris's sacrifice be in vain. We'll hold them off using whatever means we can. Please, Your Highness, let's go. Seeing everyone urging again, Erin finally gathered her emotions and spoke firmly. I will never forget your sacrifice, Sir Morris. The next moment, a low chant emerged from her lips. Grim armor. I have created a temporary protective barrier with my magic. The roots of the mandrake are highly toxic. Just one touch, and you could die. But my protective barrier will protect you from that deadly poison. So, please, you must survive. This is an order I give you. The knights rallied with a shout. Yes, Your Highness. However, this This barrier was merely a simple protection and could not compensate for the disparity in strength between the knights and the creature. Amidst the fierce battle, the number of casualties continued to rise. "Everyone back off," a clear and sharp voice cut through the chaotic battlefield. The next moment, a dragon formed of solid ice pierced through the creature's body. "Freeze!" The arrival was Ellis, who finally broke through the battlefield to reach Aaron's side. "I'm none other than the Ellis Vert of the House of Vert. Follow me." Behind her in the corridor, a magenta figure rapidly leapt, her dual daggers flashing, clearing the entire area. That was Sirica. While fighting, she thought to herself, "I'm an alchemy instructor at the academy. Fighting with a dagger would run the risk of exposing Mist's identity." But the situation was so critical that she could no longer care about that. After all, everyone at the royal banquet was either rich or noble, and the consequences of heavy casualties were unimaginable. This attack had completely shattered the peace on the continent. All that could be hoped now was that its impact could be minimized as much as possible. Fog Blade, 8 fluttering petals. The huge body of the mandrake creature seemed to freeze, then collapsed thunderously. The knights finally breathed a sigh of relief. These terrifying creatures had finally been slain, but they had relaxed too soon. There were still countless masked monsters rampaging across the field. Sirica sliced through the head of the enemy. She once again demonstrated her outstanding leadership, loudly commanding, "There are still demonic beasts here, so keep your guards up." Now, with her taking charge of the offensive in the banquet hall, she could only hope that Ellis would successfully escort the princess to safety. But a lingering anxiety in her heart kept her from fully relaxing. Meanwhile, Ellis was rapidly escorting Aaron and Lunov to safety. At this moment, Aaron finally understood Ellis's true identity, but what followed was concern for my safety. Her heart was filled with anxiety. Is Cyan safe? But the situation left no room for her to dwell on personal feelings. Just then, a huge figure blocked their only way forward. "The demonic beast has gotten all the way here?" Ellis's eyes hardened, ready for battle. "It's as if they know where we are. Will I be able to win this? Against a nightcrawler, a high demonic beast?" Before Ellis could act, Aaron, standing behind her, launched an attack first. Holy chain trap, releasing chains on the legs of the nightcrawler. Simultaneously, Lunov also unleashed Flame Spear, which blasted the nightcrawler simultaneously. Ellis looked back and, looking at the two fighting beside her, "We'll give you a hand. Attack now while there's an opening." She felt immensely heartened. She secretly clenched her sword. "I must not fall in front of these beloved juniors. Gotta stay strong." Although the two's attacks did not inflict fatal damage on the nightcrawler, the combination of fire and holy elements enraged it. It roared, lunging with a deadly strike straight at the three of them. She deployed a water barrier, directly blocking the onslaught, but took the opportunity to leap up, landing behind the nightcrawler to launch a fierce attack. "I'm a member of the House of Vert, fighting to protect the Empire. You're going to regret standing in my way." The glow of the water blade shone brightly, heavily slamming into the nightcrawler's body. Meanwhile, on Sirica's side, after defeating the monsters, she asked, "Was this guy the last of them?" She removed the mask from one of the monsters, thinking, "It looks like a demonic beast from the outside, but it's exuding a strange aura." The mask revealed a lifeless face, which shocked Sirica. "Is this a marionette?" Her scholarly mind immediately recalled a forbidden magic, a spell capable of reviving the dead. These monsters could be controlled like puppets, but such a spell would be immensely difficult. The sheer number of these creatures also implied enormous magical power and preparation time. This couldn't be the work of one individual. So, what could be the purpose behind such a massive disturbance by an organization? Just to provoke a war? The world never lacks warmongers, but they always move along the chain of profit. Who stands to gain from this bloody banquet? Meanwhile, on another part of the Imperial corridor, a tall, imposing figure stood sword in hand atop the corpses of monsters. "Is this all the monsters there are? To think such an incident would occur at a banquet." His words were not yet finished when he staggered, his body starting to cough. Lunel and Ishel immediately expressed their concern. "Your Majesty, are you alright?" The Emperor merely waved them off from coming closer. "It's nothing. I just pushed myself too hard, but I am glad to have the two of you by my side. It's reassuring." Ishel immediately responded respectfully, "Please allow me to help you up, Your Majesty." The Emperor, though stricken with illness, still insisted on fighting bravely at the forefront. Now, reluctantly, he could only accept Ishel's kind offer, yet he remained worried about the situation in the palace. Ishel responded calmly, "Naturally, the knights within the castle will handle these matters. Your Majesty need not worry. We will remain by your side to protect you, Your Majesty." Meanwhile, Ellis, Aaron, and Lunov, after defeating the Nightcrawler, found themselves surrounded by puppet creatures once again. Ellis clenched her sword. "Damn it, where are they coming from? It just never ends." Meanwhile, on the other side, just as Emily pulled out the tie that my brother Ishel had given her, compared to Nana's keen intuition, Guardian Knight Brian was the first to sense something off with the tie. His suspicion arose from his long-term interactions with me, who always harbored an inexplicable hostility towards Ishel, and it is something much more serious than siblings' rivalry. Moreover, Ishel had never given me a gift before, but now he treated this gift with such seriousness, even bringing Emily all the way to the royal banquet. There was no time for Brian to explain in detail, as Nana's warning cut them off first. "Brian, we have to run now." Brian is puzzled. "Run? What's the matter? Nana's eyes narrowed into golden slits, clearly already in battle-ready mode. Something very dangerous is coming this way. Seeing this, Emily is shocked. What's with her eyes? Brian, looking at Nana's face, understood the seriousness of the situation and was about to ask her when suddenly, with a bang, the wall behind them exploded. Looking back, Brian immediately stood as guard. Watch out, Lady Emily. Emily, with her eyes wide open, couldn't believe what she was seeing. It was a high demonic beast, the behemoth. Meanwhile, on the other side, everyone was running for their lives. The assassination target of my mission, Drenian, who's running as fast as he can, can't help but think, curses, this is bad. This is really bad. I'm going to die at this rate. I did manage to escape faster than anyone else, but to think those monsters were positioned right outside the main gate of the Imperial Palace. I have to return alive, no matter what. I have to survive. I wanted to see my lovely maid, Lily. The touch of her skin and her pleading cries fascinated me. Thinking of that beautiful woman's suffering excites me. Come to think of it, I want to see Circa's broken expression as well. If I could ruin her with my own hands, that would fulfill my desires. Thinking of this reason to live, he looked back and asked the knight, "Are you sure the rear gate is safe?" Which immediately answered, "Yes, that's likely the case." Likely the case? Are you joking with me? But before he could finish, a blade slashed across his head. It was another monster who swiftly decapitated Drenian. Seeing this, everyone is shocked in terror. It turns out the monsters are also positioned at the rear gate. The knights are overpowered in number. Damn it, are we done for just like that? Just then, a knight notices a water bubble and is puzzled. Aqua explosion. The water element exploded in the front door. Ellis, holding a longsword, finally arrived at the evacuation point. Luna, hurry. Now, freezing breath. Luna's fusion magic followed closely behind, creating sharp blades that pierced through the monsters, instantly clearing the battlefield. This magnificent teamwork is witnessed by everyone. The knights can't help but marvel. Amazing. They got rid of those monsters in an instant. Who are they? I am Ellis Vert of the House of Duke Vert. It's not over yet. Please protect the princess. Hearing this, one knight immediately confirmed Princess Erin's safety. I'm fine, but before that, she needs help. Princess Erin answered, referring to Lunav. Lunav immediately answered, "No need to worry about me, Your Highness. I'll recover quickly." However, Erin is still hesitant to leave her. Lunav looked at Erin seriously and firmly said, "They will attack again soon. You have to run now." Erin understands this but can't help but feel guilty. Not wasting any more time, the Imperial Knights created a barrier protecting them both. Protect the princess. Stand in formation. Ellis also sprinted to the front. I'll be the support. Then she gave instructions to everyone. Guard Knights, please protect the honored guest with barriers. You must hold on until the battle ends. Imperial Knights, please make protecting the princess your utmost priority and be prepared in case I fall in battle. Ellis walked up front, her strong aura emanating. From here on, I will wager all I have to stop them. Looking at the monsters, she thought that no matter how many were defeated, these monsters always followed like shadows, as if they could track their location through something. They appeared again. The knights are in formation to protect the princess. Be ready for the attacks. However, everyone's unaware that Erin's necklace seems to release an ominous mana. Meanwhile, on the other side, a behemoth is attacking my resting room. Brian immediately drew his sword to protect Emily. While Emily was at a loss, hides behind Brian's back. Do something, Sir Knight. But Brian only dared to maintain a defensive stance. Stand behind me. Although his strength had greatly increased, he still felt unsure about facing the high-level demonic beast. For a behemoth to blatantly show up in the Imperial Palace, something must be happening, just as young Master said. Standing firmly, he thought, young Master may have protected me all this time, but I can't always rely on him. Now, I will have to be the one to protect them, but she's too close to me. Although there's a layer of armor between us, Emily's helpless independent words still made Brian's face flush red. I believe in you, Sir Knight. You can do it. What man could resist that? The behemoth let out a deafening roar, signaling the start of battle, and made its way to attack them. Here it comes, Emily shouted, to which Brian immediately responded, don't get too separated from me. The behemoth attacked with its sharp claws toward them, and Brian was able to block it successfully. Seeing this, Brian felt confident. I blocked it. Alright, this should be doable. But before he could finish, the behemoth attacked again. Compared to the behemoth's powerful and robust strength, Brian could only rely on wind attribute speed for multiple attacks to reduce damage. In the blink of an eye, the sounds of clashing weapons filled the air. Emily trembled. Are you okay, Sir Knight? It's bearable. Don't worry, I'll protect you. But the next second, the behemoth stops attacking and lunges with its huge teeth, biting towards the two of them. At this moment, Brian felt a sense of despair. His sword couldn't cause any fatal damage to the monster, but the next bite could pierce his body directly. Is this the end? I'm sorry, young master. But in the next instant, a tremendous shockwave came down from above and slammed into the behemoth's jaw, embedding its entire head into the ground. Brian couldn't hide his shock, while Emily, hiding at his back, asked, what is that? It turns out that the figure who delivered this fatal blow was none other than Nana, now in her Dragon Man form. The monsters are charging again. Prepare to fight. The monsters surged like a tide. Their attacks were relentless. They seemed to never tire. At this moment, Ellis too was forcing herself to hold on. The situation before her felt like a fine spiderweb. The person behind the scenes had planned so meticulously, the other knights will soon reach their limits. If they kept fighting like this, they would only face defeat. They needed to find another solution. In the chaos, a monster's mask was knocked off, and Ellis was stunned when she saw what was beneath. It was an undead creature. Could it be a marionette revived by black magic? There were many ways to counter black magic in this world, but the first thing that came to Ellis's mind was the light element of the god of light, Lumendal. If there was a light magic mage right now, we would have a chance to win. If that's the case, this is the only method. There was one right before her. Princess Erin, please infuse my sword with light magic. But Erin immediately responded, I can't. If I do, the protective spell around the knights will disappear. Hearing this, the knights believed in their princess. Don't worry about it, Your Highness. We can hold on for that short moment. Please trust in us. Seeing this, Erin no longer hesitated. I understand then. Blessing of light. Ellis's longsword gleamed with golden light, shining brightly along the blade. It worked, though she couldn't fuse multiple types of magic like Lunav. She recently learned spirit magic might not interfere with the light attribute boost, but she had never tried this before. At this moment, Ellis decided to risk everything. On the other side, after I left the lounge, the royal banquet hall was already in disarray from the battle. The marionette and mandrake monsters. Just seeing these two types of monsters for a moment, I immediately recognized the handiwork of an old friend from my previous life. So it was from this point that Boris had become Michelle's vassal. Kayram was surprised and said, is there still anyone using such ancient necromantic black magic? Boris's talent is indeed rare, but he has another method he commonly uses, accelerating the enhancements of the demonic beast by using the Day's Stone. The mana contained in that gem provokes and lures the demonic beasts. Kayram immediately said she could track the magic power of the Day's Stone. Then there's nothing left to stay for. But before we leave, I should change my clothes first. Meanwhile, on the other hand, Ellis's spirit magic was already burning furiously. Just as the giant spirit appeared behind Ellis, Lunav immediately recognized its identity. It's the Great Spirit, Marianne. Did she summon Marianne temporarily with light element mana? But Ellis couldn't mix other mana with hers. It is something that cannot be mixed at all, so this state couldn't last long. She had to stop her, or Ellis's body would be overwhelmed by the chaotic mixed magic. But Ellis had already made up her mind. She had always been this stubborn. The words of the Great Spirit soothed her. Dear child, why do you seek death so soon? Ellis responded softly, because I can't think of any other way to defeat the enemy before us, Lady Marianne. The Great Spirit then realized she was burning herself for the sake of protecting everything behind her. A child blessed by the gods was about to burn herself for others. What a sad fate. A pure soul was about to walk a thorny path. How detestable. Don't get too close, my child. The monsters still rushing forward ignited the Great Spirit's fury. The water element rampaged wildly. The explosive force alone cleared the area around them. At this moment, Erin and Lunav stood stunned. Just a light wave of her hand and released such powerful force. That won't be enough, Lunav added. They are starting to rise again. Enough. If you keep pushing yourself like this, you'll die. But Ellis paid no attention to Erin's persuasion. If I stop now, things will only get worse. I need to end this here. Authority of the Spirit King, Rongomiant. Just the starting move had already changed the color of the surroundings. The Great Spirit Marianne began gathering magic power. This strike would have the power to destroy the heavens and the earth, but would Ellis's body be able to withstand it? The next second, a hand suddenly intervened, stopping Ellis's casting. Everyone watched it in disbelief. When did this happen? Suddenly, a masked figure appeared. Another marionette? But this stranger gave Ellis a weird feeling. His aura was completely different from the other monsters. However, the moment they touched, a sinister black mist quickly climbed up her wrist. Damn, I can't move at all. What frightened her more was yet to come. The black mist gradually enveloped her entire body. No, I'll end up getting swallowed by the fog at this rate. And even the connection with the god spirit Marianne was weakening. Marianne's voice came from behind her. It's time to say goodbye, my dear child. Lady Marianne, are you leaving me now? But Marianne's tone was somewhat comforting. It seems that your journey will not end here. It's a shame that we must part, but it also brings me joy. I let go of her hands. The next moment, Ellis was slumped on the ground, her strength seemingly drained. Remember it well, Ellis. Pruino will always welcome you, Marianne added. Ellis called out loudly, Lady Marianne. However, the god spirit's form had already dissipated. Just what happened? Erin curiously asked. At that moment, Lunav saw more clearly. The entity over there just blocked her mana and nullified the manifestation of the spirit. We don't even know if it's human or not. The monster charged again, but without Ellis's core strength, where would everyone's fate lead them? But in the next moment, I had already blocked the monster's attack. Ellis then realized that I was on their side. The demon blade in my hand whirled, and the monsters in the arena stood no chance against me. I knew these marionette monsters all too well, but they had driven my sister to this desperate state. To protect the nobles hiding behind her, she had to burn herself out. Unforgivable. Even so, the main target of these monsters' attacks was still not me. These things start rushing toward the princess and her entourage the moment I take a step back, as if they are drawn by powerful mana. Kayram, can you sense any strange mana amongst them, aside from the kid called Lunav? Kayram asked. It's not her. Lunav's magic is naturally like that, Kayram immediately stated. it. I can sense a mana similar to a demonic beast from the necklace Princess Erin is wearing. Then, the problem becomes much simpler. I'll go there immediately. Lend me your powers. Although Karam complained, you only think of me in situations like this. Her actions were swift. Creation, dimension fog domain. Instantly, black mist swept across the entire hall, enveloping everything in a sinister blood-red hue. Everyone was concerned for their own safety. Be careful, everyone. There's no telling what's inside this fog. As soon as the black mist touched the marionette, it stopped moving. Soon, Ellis was shocked. She discovered that the black mist was slowly consuming the bodies of the monsters. In no time, all the monsters in the area had dissolved. However, correspondingly, the entire hall was left in ruins. Everyone was stunned by what they saw. Everything quieted down, and everyone felt the relief of having survived a catastrophe. All the marionette had been killed, but who exactly was that masked man? Yet, there was another person who persevered through sheer willpower, Lunav. She finally lowered her guard and collapsed, relieved. Erin hurried over to check on her. Get a hold of yourself, Lunav. But in the next instant, my figure suddenly appeared behind her, with the demon blade pointed directly at Erin's neck. The sudden turn of events threw the knights into disarray. Isn't he on our side? Let go of the princess now. At that moment, Erin, who was being supported, felt a strangely familiar presence from the person behind her and momentarily lost her focus, forgetting to resist. The sound of a gem shattering was heard. The necklace Erin was wearing was shattered by my strike. As the necklace broke, the blood of the knight's guardians boiled over, and they swung their swords at me, but only hit a shadow of black mist. The knight was shocked. What is this fog? In the next instant, I was by the side of the unconscious Lunav, channeling the energy of the black mist into her body. Erin, panicked and disoriented, launched a god stinger without thinking, but only struck another shadow of black mist. At that moment, my figure was no longer visible in the hall, but an echo resonated. Don't worry, I won't hurt you. After shattering the necklace, the monsters will no longer pursue you. You can escape the palace through the front door. I've cleared the way for you. Erin finally understood, gently touching the broken gem. Don't tell me this necklace that big brother Lionel had gifted to me. The knight's inquiry brought her back to reality. Are you hurt anywhere, your highness? She then realized that, more than discovering the truth, the safety of Ellis and Lunav was more important at this moment. Fortunately, both were unharmed and only needed a short rest before they could move on. However, the question of the masked man's identity still haunted Ellis's mind. I have to ensure the safety of these kids first. Let's think about that man later. Lunav, who was more experienced, suddenly thought of a name. Senior Cyan? Could it be him? Meanwhile, in another resting room, the behemoth had been confirmed dead. Yet, Nana the dragon person's aura left Emily and Brian in awe. What kind of child is that? Are you sure she's just a maid? Although Brian was much calmer, he had never seen Nana like this before, so he was equally at a loss and dared only to tentatively call out, Nana, are you alright? The bloody banquet finally came to an end, but the conspiracy that stirred the continent was just beginning. In my past life, all rumors pointed to Princess Erin as the mastermind behind the bloody banquet. People accused her of being blinded by the desire for power, and the final proof was the day's stone that attracted magical beasts. But now that I think about it, that magic stone was probably given to her by a Shell or Lionel. The emperor, who was supposed to protect Erin, was too ill to be of help. The dreadful impact of the bloody banquet forced the royal family to quickly find a scapegoat to stabilize the situation. Thus, the nobility accepted the charges against Erin. That seems to be the true story of Erin's tragic fate. After that, Ishel and Lionel were hailed as heroes who saved the empire. The two rising stars, crowned as heroes, ultimately became the biggest beneficiaries for protecting the emperor from numerous demonic beasts. Karam now understood the context. So, you mean to say that they fabricated the whole incident for their own gain? Fratricide, sacrificing their own kind. Sometimes, human nature seems even more despicable than demons. I told her, compared to what they did later, this bloody banquet was just a prelude. Even I myself have been involved in far worse deeds. They committed evil deeds for personal gain, but I, who only acted on orders in my previous life, am I worse than them? I stood up. I'll have to go. Nana's waiting for me. The Imperial Knights should be able to clean up the rest. Karam suddenly mentioned something that had been bothering her. There's one thing that's been on my mind ever since I saw the princess's necklace from before. I curiously asked what it was. The scent of the day's stone in the princess's necklace. I think I've smelled it on your maid too. I was gravely shocked. You mean Emily? At that moment, in the resting room where Emily was, Nana was overwhelmed by her primal hunger. Delicious. Emily, you smell so tasty. Emily and Brian, facing this sudden turn of events, were completely at a loss. Don't come any closer. I'm not tasty at all. Brian could hardly believe what was happening before him. It's as if she's become a demonic beast. In his memory, Nana had always been small and well-behaved, never imagining she would turn out like this today. What in the world happened? For some reason, her target is only Emily, but I must stop her. At this moment, Nana had already impatiently launched an attack. Brian's mind was continually occupied by the image of the small Nana. Emily can't do anything but scream her lungs out. Damn it, I just can't bring myself to do it. Once a full-time dad, now he had completely lost the will to fight. In an instant, my figure leapt into the arena, blocking this fatal strike just in time. Karam, quick! Karam is always so dependable. Amidst the the chaos. In a flash, she appeared behind Emily, clutching the necktie with the day's stone tightly in her hand. She then dropped it to the ground. Ignoring Emily's pleas, she crushed the necklace under her foot without hesitation. Nana, pull yourself together. Look closely. He's your dearest daddy. Daddy? Hearing familiar words, Nana's eyes gradually cleared up. What's going on? Did Nana cause Daddy's injury? I was standing in front of her with a huge slash wound on my back. It's alright, Nana. I turned to reassure her. It doesn't hurt at all. I know you didn't mean to, so it's not your fault. But Nana's heart was already filled with remorse. She knelt on the ground, tears streaming down uncontrollably. After all, she still had the mind of a child, and the sudden change was too cruel for her. Seeing this, Brian and Emily could only stand in shock. Let's leave this place. It's really a mess here. Meanwhile, Lionel stared at the empty corridor before him, bewildered. What's going on? Shouldn't there be monsters everywhere here? But now it was so quiet, as if no trace of monsters had ever been there. The Emperor agreed with Lionel's observation, but he only felt relieved by the changes in front of him. Lionel immediately changed his tone. Right, Father. I too am relieved to see this. It does look like the situation has settled down a bit. Ishel is silent, and his face shows displeased. Just then, familiar shouts echoed through the empty corridor. It was Erin and her group, running, calling her father. Seeing his youngest daughter safe and sound, the Emperor was overjoyed. Erin rushed into the Emperor's arms, their affection clearly evident. What a relief that you're unharmed. Likewise, I'm glad to see you unharmed. But a somewhat somber voice spoke up at that moment. Are you hurting anywhere? Erin immediately recognized the voice. Big brother Lionel? Upon hearing this, the Emperor immediately introduced Erin to Ishel and the Crown Prince, crediting them with his escape from danger. I was able to safely arrive here thanks to Lionel and Ishel. What a fortune. I'm really glad to see you didn't die. Little sister Erin. Erin struggled to remain composed, her mind full of questions for Lionel. But seeing that Lionel had clearly gained the Emperor's trust, it wasn't the right time for questions. She simply responded calmly. I'm also glad to see you safe too, big brother. Ellis and others also paid their respects to the Emperor. The Emperor immediately thanked them for protecting Erin and promised to reward them handsomely later. However, Ishel took this opportunity to quietly pull Lionel aside and discuss something privately. Erin, who had been quietly observing her brother, suddenly had a bad feeling. The next moment, Lionel's loud voice broke the silence. I have figured out who the mastermind behind this situation is. As everyone stood in stunned silence, Lionel drew his sword without hesitation and pointed it at Lunav, the granddaughter of Ridge and Rain River, the head of the Garum Association. Lunav Rain River, you are under arrest. The sudden turn of events left everyone at a loss. The Emperor immediately rebuked. What insolence is this? Put down your sword. Erin also loudly protested. Big brother, she saved the lives of many people, including mine. But Lionel scoffed. That was just a disguise. The kingdom of Garum has always been looking for opportunities to strike at the Wuzif Empire. Hence, they attempted assassination to create chaos within. Lunav retorted sarcastically. You talk as if you have evidence. At that moment, Ishel stepped forward to support the accusations. Suspicious mana was detected yesterday evening, right where Lunav was staying. The Emperor questioned again. Are you sure about what you're saying? You'd best tread carefully with what you speak. Lionel replied firmly. I invited them to the banquet to convey the Empire's desire for peace. But accordingly, as a precaution, I've been watching her every move. If Father would give me a bit of time, I can produce evidence to prove it. Erin still tried to plead for Lunav, but the situation had spiraled out of control. The Emperor knew that the dire repercussions of the bloody banquet had doomed the royal family to being unable to provide a satisfactory explanation to the people. If the true mastermind wasn't strictly punished now, the nobility would likely lose faith and loyalty. Under normal circumstances, the Emperor would never allow such baseless accusations, but at this moment, his will was crushed by the anxiety of the situation and his illness. Lionel's eyes flickered with a hint of triumph. Please leave everything to me. By now, Lunav had realized that there was no escape for her, but the deeply thoughtful woman suddenly understood that all this must have been a well-orchestrated trap. So, what role did her grandfather play in all this? Did the old man also enjoy seeing these events unfold? In the end, Lunav Rain River and the members of the Garum Association were arrested and subjected to investigation. The bloody banquet finally concluded, and the Guardian Knights were at last reunited with their charges. Rezimus immediately rushed into Erin's arms. I thought you were dead. I'll never let you out of my sight again. At the same time, the lavish funeral of Marquis Drenian, the Empress's brother, was held. Regardless, this bloody banquet, while less deadly than in my previous life, could not escape being dubbed a banquet of blood. However, the situation was even worse for me, given the severe injuries I had sustained. At least, it's great that you're only hurt this much. But, big sister Ellis, you really don't need to do this for me. Unmoved, Ellis replied. Don't move. This is only natural for me as your big sister. Listen up, will you? But she quickly changed the subject. It's such a relief that you ran away. It was really dangerous in there. I scoffed at myself. Yes, well, I really did run as if my life depended on it. Ellis ignored my comment and continued. But if it weren't for that masked man who appeared later, I wouldn't have made it out safely that day. The image of the masked man appears in her memory. Who could he have been? That man. His build was similar to yours. Hearing this, I was cautious. Did she recognize me? After speaking, Ellis couldn't help but giggle. You really bulked up, didn't you? I didn't realize you had so many scars. You must train very hard. Of course, I immediately answered without looking at her. Oh my, are you embarrassed? Can I touch your muscles a bit? I immediately exploded. Stop making fun of me. However, another voice suddenly intervened. You're quick to recover. You two are as close as ever. It's enough to make me jealous. You know, how's your injury? It was a shell. I immediately became cautious. It's pretty much healed. Thanks to you, big brother. Is the investigation into the mastermind behind the incident going well? Ellis keenly captured the subtle atmosphere between the brothers. She wondered to herself, could her young brother have sensed Echelle's cruel and despicable side? Echelle remained composed. I came here for that reason. In Lunav's room, we found a bracelet set with a day's stone, but she claimed it was a gift from someone else. I responded indifferently. Then you should also add the person who gave her the bracelet to the list of suspects. Brother, you are indeed smart. Echelle changed the topic. By the way, did you receive any gifts during the banquet? So, was this his real purpose for coming here? I immediately denied it and said, I don't know. Has the person who gave Lunav the bracelet been found? It was a merchant who used to frequent the Imperial Palace, but he was found dead this morning. That's why I'm trying to find the person before it's too late. Echelle's tone suddenly became oppressive. So, let me ask you again, did you really not receive any gifts that day from someone? Sure enough, I knew it. He wasn't here to investigate, but to find a scapegoat to solidify his status. Given Echelle's nature, he would surely eliminate those in the know first. At this moment, Emily seemed to be enjoying the quiet after the chaos, but suddenly a figure appeared behind her. Emily is in danger. He obviously came with an answer in mind. At this time, to defend myself blindly would be like walking into a trap. So, I pretended to be ill to dodge the issue. Ah, my head hurts. I feel worse than ever. While speaking, I conveniently collapsed into my sister Ellis's arms. Sorry, I think I'm not fully recovered yet. Seeing this, Ellis immediately consoled me softly and turned to Echelle with a fierce rebuke. Did you have to pick this time? Cyan has lost too much blood. The doctor has been insistent that he must rest well. Absolutely no disturbances. Ellis's protectiveness was like that of a mother leopard defending her cub, causing Echelle to feel like he had lost face. I see. Get some rest. I'll be heading out. At that moment, I suddenly said, no one has sent me any gifts, which caught Echelle's attention. I continued, even if someone had approached me, they wouldn't have survived in that hellish place. Echelle immediately changed his expression upon hearing this. I see. Thanks for your answer. However, deep inside he thought, right, the person could have died from the attacks of the demonic beasts. While certainly good news that I don't have to go through the trouble of eliminating someone, it's a shame I couldn't use this opportunity to eliminate you, my brother. His inscrutable machinations were not aimed at uncovering the truth, but at eliminating a brother who was both prominent and potentially powerful. After Echelle left, Ellis immediately changed her tone, sternly saying, how many times have I told you to just lie down? Enough with the acting, rest now. Okay, my sister really is scary. I sighed helplessly. Meanwhile, in a quiet corridor, the maid who had presented the necklace to Aaron was found collapsed in a pool of blood, still loudly pleading, bewildered. I did everything you asked. Why must I face this fate? I won't question what purpose that was for, so please spare my life. The only response was a cold laugh. Thank you for fully performing your role. Unfortunately, my role is not yet finished, so I must carry out these despicable tasks. It's irritating, especially after all the hard work I've done. Before she could react, the maid was dead. So, rest in peace, he said while walking out of the scene. However, suddenly, Boris's figure reappeared, as he seemed to remember something. I almost forgot. Last time a body wasn't cleaned up properly, nearly caused a big trouble. This time, I have to make sure to clean up after myself. Devour. The glow from the spellbook shined, and a formidable beastly figure suddenly stood behind Boris. Meanwhile, on the outskirts, the figure behind Emily removed his cloak, revealing it to be Brian returning from buying supplies. Emily had a bite of the apple, then the two relaxed, enjoying the post-war tranquility. However, Emily suddenly asked, how long are we supposed to be here? The young master asked us to wait until he gave further orders, so we have to stay in hiding here until then. Previously, at the banquet, realizing Emily had become a part of Echelle's schemes, I commented, he's made it really complicated now. I knew the imperial capital and the duke's estate were no longer safe for her, so I tasked her to hide somewhere until I gave further orders. Hearing this, Emily is puzzled but chooses to trust me. I then called out to Brian, who is currently assisting Nana. Since I have something else to do, you'll be escorting Emily. Understood, young master. Brian immediately replied, and please take care of Nana as well, I added, then looked at Nana with a smile. We'll just be separated for a bit. Nana, don't cry. Remembering this, Brian thought, it's my first time seeing young master with that expression. This time for sure, I have to be helped to him. Thus, the two fell into a state of idle confusion. Emily worried naively, is Nana feeling a bit better now? She was having a tough time for the past few days, but she's been sleeping well lately, so I think she's gotten better. I never expected that little maid to be a dragonkin. The young master must have been through a lot while I was away, but now, we need to stand firmly by his side and do our utmost to help him. Hearing this, Brian felt an immediate connection, urgently agreeing with her sentiment. However, seeing Emily's demeanor, he couldn't help but recall memories of her trust and reliance on him during dangerous dangerous times. That memory, however unshakable. Emily, looking at him, added, then let's do our best to help young master from here on out, Sir Brian. Seeing this, Brian was silent for a moment. Then he finally smiled and answered, yes, Lady Emily. Meanwhile, inside the palace, Luenell rushed impatiently into the Emperor's study. Father, why would you do this? We have clear evidence, and yet you ask us to release our sole culprits. The Emperor responded sharply, mind your words. Lunev is still only a suspect. My decision has been made, and there will be no changes. Luenell was furious. Under the guise of an investigation, he could have firmly grasped the reins of power in the Empire, suppressed some opposing forces, and, after uncovering the perpetrator, emerged as a hero. But now, all of that was dashed with the Emperor's single command to drop the charges. What could have made this decrepit old man suddenly lose his sense, to ignore the pressures of both internal and external situations so recklessly? Luenell lost control of his words. With such a weak mentality, how can you establish dominion over the continent? Even a mere Garum kingdom makes you so cautious. The Emperor was furious, his hand striking past Luenell's face. Luenell had never seen his father this forceful before. You just mentioned establishing dominion over the continent, looking down on such a lofty ideal. But why do you ignore the mire at your feet? Don't you know that the region of our empire is a battleground? Maintaining peace is hard enough, and you dare to talk of dominion? Your eyes see only the Garum kingdom as an enemy, but we are bordered by 3 other great kingdoms. Just the constant threat of beasts from the Demon Kingdom border keeps our army overwhelmed, and that's with no war ongoing. And you still aspire to meddle with the Garum kingdom? Even if, by some chance, the empire could establish dominance over the continent, such a path is undoubtedly a bloody one. Only a monster would choose this road, not an emperor. Do you really not understand such simple logic? Luenell, tired of his father's way of ruling, still tried to argue, but releasing a criminal with clear evidence against them, since when does the empire have such laws? The emperor couldn't help but interject. Are you talking about the Days Stone? Luenell was stunned on the spot. The emperor shouldn't have been able to make a precise assessment of the stone's properties in such a short time, but the emperor acted as if everything was under control. The emperor said gravely, just from your expression, I can see everything I need to see. Luenell, you were always the child to get what you wanted ever since you were young. Luenell was flabbergasted. Father, I don't understand what you're talking about. The emperor again snapped. My foolish son, how could you have fallen so far? It seems Aaron is more qualified to be an emperor than you. I don't even want to see your face now. Begone this instant. Luenell felt boundless anger. His power, his everything. As if in an instant, everything could be taken away by a light word from the elderly man before him. This loss of control completely tore at Luenell's heart, distorting it grotesquely. Aaron Sevelis, that damn bitch ruined everything. The next moment, within the opulent palace, Luenell stormed into Aaron's chamber. Get out of the way. Rezimus tried to stop the crown prince's overstepping behavior. Your Highness, the princess needs to rest. Get out of my way. Luenell's angry punch knocked Rezimus to the ground. Aaron, drawn by the noise outside, looked bewilderingly at the furiously approaching Luenell. Brother, what is all this commotion about? The princess, who had previously been known only for her tears and dependence, was now growing into a resilient person who could stand firm against her brother. Luenell appeared deranged. I am here, of course, to have a proper conversation with my dear little sister.